This video is sponsored by Direct Mobiles. You can check out their deals at directmobiles.co.uk. Welcome to another Btekt, guys. This is David, and today's video is about the Google Pixel 4. Now, there is quite a few reasons to be excited about this device, but for me, the main one is that camera. For the first time, we've got a dual system on the back of a Google Pixel device, but even the ones that have a single lens system still outperformed many other multi-lens systems. So the fact we've got two lenses on the back of this guy is actually quite exciting for me, and the first few shots that I've taken really haven't disappointed. So when we first saw pictures of the Google Pixel 4, well, I at least assumed that it was going to have maybe 3 lenses similar to what we see with the iPhone 11 Pro, but there's actually only 2 lenses behind this blackened glass. The first is a 12 megapixel unit that has a 77-degree angle of view, so a 2x telephoto lens compared to its 16 megapixel, which has a 52-degree angle of view. Both have optical image stabilization and they both perform exceptionally well. But the way it works inside the camera app is that it gives you a smooth transition between the 1x, the 2x, and then all the way up to 8x. So you just have one slider that you can slide from 1x to 8x. And even at maximum zoom, it does really do perform well. I wish they used the same sensor for both the 1x and the 2x lens. They're clearly different. When you're sliding between the 1x, as soon as you get past 2x, there's a noticeable color shift, as well as a slight drop in light gathering, and you do notice the difference. The wide-angle camera uses a sensor with a pixel pitch of 1.4 microns. This is compared to 1 micron that you get with the telephoto lens. So there is definitely some difference in quality, although quality is definitely something that the Pixel 4 delivers. The colors are very natural and you consistently get beautiful shots, but there is a small amount of processing that goes on after almost every single shot is taken. It just adds its little algorithm magic to whatever photo you've taken. So even if it's a good shot taken in good light and it already looks nice, it will still try and smarten it up more. But then the same is true if it's a really poor shot taken in terrible conditions that naturally is going to be very grainy. The Pixel 4 will take it a little bit longer in situations like that and clear it up to give you a noise-free image almost every time. You do notice it more with the portrait shots. It always takes a few seconds to actually blur out that background, separate that subject and give you that shot. And the length of this shot depends on how complicated the subject is. A few times with the Pixel 3, I did notice quite a long delay. If you're taking a shot of a very complicated subject, it would take its time, up to a minute sometimes, even longer, to process that image. They seem to have got the time right down even further now. I don't know whether that's attributed more to the software or to the hardware, but it doesn't really keep me waiting like the Pixel 3 did. There is some delay, although it's much shorter than it was before. Around the front end, we're not only getting a single camera to take pictures with, there is another 2 cameras in there which are designed for the face unlock system, which works incredibly well. There is no fingerprint scanner on this device, so the only way to unlock it is via the Face ID, similar to the iPhone. The iPhone's Face ID works better than any Face ID that I've seen before. The Face ID in the Pixel 4 works extremely well, although it's just a little bit slower than the one that we see in the iPhone. It's not slower to the point where it becomes a problem. For me, it unlocks consistently well time and time again. I've got no problems with the face unlock. In fact, I wish more phones had this type of security within them. It just automatically recognizes you and unlocks. That is just the type of user experience that I want in a phone. Although the trade-off is that you're going to have to either put some kind of notch or some kind of huge bezel like we see here with the Pixel 4. I'm sure it won't be too long before we start to see phones where all that tech is incorporated underneath the display. Another thing that I love about the Pixel 4 is the software. Straight out of the box, it comes with Android 10, which has a really nice and contemporary look to it now. By default, it comes with the standard 3-button Android navigation that we're all used to, but you can go into the settings and change it to their new type of navigation system, which now has the back button assigned to swiping in from either the left or the right side. You can also swipe up and hold to get your list of recent apps, and then swipe up from the middle to go back to your home screen. You can also summon the Google Assistant by swiping in from the corners. Or, as with the Pixel 3 series, you can squeeze the size of the phone to call your assistant. And I'm glad that they kept that feature because it is surprisingly useful. But there is lots of other nice little touches to the software. Choose between either a light theme or a dark theme. And this will work across many of your apps, saving you quite a bit of battery power in the process, as this screen uses no power at all to show the color black. There's an interesting feature down in the sound settings, which is the live caption. This will display subtitles on the screen for any type of media that's playing on the phone. And it is amazing how well it actually works. It does give you the option to hide the profanities and states that all the processing is done on the device, so nothing gets sent to the cloud, which is good for privacy, but also means that at least you don't need an internet connection to get it to work. Another thing that's worth noting about the Pixel 4 is that the speakers sound excellent, as we've come to expect from Pixel devices. Now for me, this is a really important feature as I listen to my phone a lot, so whenever I hear a phone that has good stereo speakers, I'm kind of halfway sold on it already. They are good, but they don't quite beat the sound that comes out of the iPhone 11. To me, that is still the best sounding phone that you can get at the moment, although the Pixel does come very close. It's not quite as loud or as bassy, but overall it is a very impressive sound and is one of my favorite things about the Pixel 4. Another thing to love about this phone is its display. It is a very sharp and color accurate panel, 5.7 inches on this device, Full HD Plus resolution and a pixel density of 444 ppi. But this screen also has a 90Hz refresh rate. Now this feature isn't available all of the time. Google must be aware of how much more battery life these types of display use compared to their 60Hz counterparts. And therefore you can't use the 90Hz display all of the time. It will only do it for certain types of content. However, there is an option in the developer settings to keep the 90Hz display on full time, regardless of what content you're showing. The only downside about this display though is that it's not quite as bright as some of the screens that I've come across lately. This could be deliberate in order to save a little bit more battery, as the screen is quite power hungry. I do notice that lately some of the really high-tech screens that we're seeing on flagships are a little bit down on brightness, such as the 4K HDR OLED panel that's in the Sony Xperia 1. It's an absolutely brilliant screen in all areas apart from the brightness. The screen on the Pixel 4 I would say is definitely brighter than the Xperia 1, but I can't really think of any other smartphones that are dimmer than the Pixel 4. It is bright enough and you will be able to see it fairly well in bright sunlight, but it is noticeably dimmer than others. Now with the most recent update, Google have tweaked the display to show more content at 90Hz. And although I'm not usually a fan of manufacturers taking options out of our hands, I think it's a good move not to display all content at 90Hz, as most of the time you wouldn't notice any difference anyway, and you're just draining more battery life. But at least it's good to know that if you want it on all the time, the option is there, although you do have to do a bit of digging. Another great feature that you'll find with the Pixel 4 is the motion sense. Hidden inside the top bezel is a radar unit that can detect movement around the phone. This allows you to control certain functions without actually touching the device. So you can just wave your hand left or right to skip songs if you're playing music, also snooze alarms and silence incoming calls. There's also a reach to wake function, which will detect if you're reaching for your phone and automatically wake the screen. Motion sense does work fairly well most of the time, although I definitely feel that there is some room for improvement. And knowing Google through software updates, this is definitely one feature that I'm expecting to be refined over time. Although for the most part it does work, and it is actually one of those features that is a little bit more useful in practice than what you think it would be. When it comes to battery, although it hasn't got the biggest unit in a smartphone, it does quite easily last me an entire day, and I have started to notice that the battery life seems to be improving over time, and that's down to the adaptive battery. It learns how you use your phone and which apps you use the most and which you don't use so often. It then uses this information to limit the power usage to those apps that perhaps don't get used as much, and as a result I am finding that the battery life is more than acceptable and hasn't let me down at all. You know, I do all of my reviews from a completely independent standpoint, so I try to give you an unbiased opinion based on my experiences rather than watching other people's reviews and basing my opinion on that. The Pixel 4 has had a fair amount of criticism, but personally I don't see what the problem is. This is a great phone for so many reasons. It has a fantastic camera, although I do wish there was an ultra wide angle lens. It's got one of the best screens that you will find on any smartphone at the moment, although I do wish it was a little bit brighter. I would say that the software is the best that you'll find on Android at the moment, and although I did quite like the old style of gesture navigation from the Pixel 3, I do prefer the iPhone/Huawei type of navigation that we have now. Although they have just blatantly ripped off the iPhone when it comes to the navigation and when it comes to the unlocking method, that's not a bad thing at all. I mean, this phone will recognize you in total darkness quite easily. Yeah, okay, this does mean that there is kind of a huge bezel at the top, and I do kind of wish it wasn't so big and that maybe they could have reduced it somehow. But you know, I can live with that. as long as it makes my phone secure and at the same time extremely easy to unlock. But I really think the software makes this phone. I guess you could criticize them for only putting 64 gigs of memory. No, actually, yes, you can 100% criticize them for only putting 64 gigs of memory. It's not acceptable in 2019 if you ask me. Even if they are offering unlimited cloud storage, that's not the point. What if I don't have access to the internet? I still want to be able to access my photos. The thing is, storage is just so cheap at the moment. I would have loved to have seen them put in maybe 256 gigs of base storage in here. There's no expandable storage either, and there's no dual SIMs. Overall, this is a really good phone, although it's missing some very crucial things for me personally. For instance, it has such a great camera, yet it doesn't use an ultra wide angle lens on the back. I get that there's only 2 lenses on the back, but if I had a choice between putting an ultra wide angle lens and a telephoto lens, I would go for the ultra wide angle every time. And because the camera's just so good, it's disappointing that I haven't got that option to get those really wide shots. Another thing that I find a little bit worrying about this phone is that it tends to get quite hot. And sometimes I've even noticed it getting a little bit warm when it's not doing anything and it's just idle in my pocket with the screen off. Okay, so it does have some flaws, but still, I've no idea why the Pixel 4 got such bad reviews when it first came out. Overall, it offers a first-rate smartphone experience with almost all the boxes ticked. For me personally, the kicker is not having the ultra wide angle lens, but that's because I love photography so much. And because this phone has such a stunning camera that the ultra wide angle would have just been the cherry on the cake. I guess I could live without that, and I'm sure most people could live without that. Overall, this phone comes highly recommended. The Pixel 4 has a certain amount of character to it, which makes it easy for people to fall in love with it. Bottom line is, this is a great phone, comes recommended from me. Anyway, that's it from me for today. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please smash the like button, leave me a comment, and of course, subscribe for more Btekt. Before I go, I want to tell you about the Direct Mobiles website. It really is a fantastic place to go if you need a new phone. You can compare all of the available UK deals with all of the UK networks all in one place. It's definitely worth checking out. Plus, they have over 24 years of award-winning customer service, which means you're in great hands. Check in the video description below for their link or search directmobiles.co.uk. Also down there, you will find a link to our new Btekt Amazon shop. All the best tech and accessories, all recommended by us. It's definitely worth checking out. Okay, thank you for watching. You can follow me on social media. My name's David, and this is Btekt.
It's Archie Ginsburg.